you know, famously 1500 LP in 2 weeks, okay? But what I should have done was maybe, you know, done like, you know, a middle ground champion. What do you guys think of that?
No, I completely agree, yeah.
I think Camille's a great choice. I think Camille's fine. Camille is a good secondary champion with Renekton. They're both 80 bruisers. They both like short trades. That Camille runs grasp these days and takes short trades. So yeah, I mean, they're both very similar. I think the only thing you're going to struggle with differently is just like laning strength on Camille is worse, and you're going to have more late game impact on Camille, but that's a good thing. That's going to be fun. I think it's actually good to have that experience, right? So if you have an OTP, Renekton, I like the concept of taking the champion's weaknesses and then picking a champion which thrives in those areas. So like Renekton famously is an absolute stain in the mid game, right? Like I've lost 100 games of Renekton after being like 5-0 in the early game, just losing the game. Whereas Camille thrives in the late game, and you can borderline grief the early game and still win. So I think that's an awesome experience, actually.
Famous Kled matchup.
The Kled matchup. Yeah.
I feel like Camille also has a lot more tools, right? When it comes to like diving, like later on, and she's very strong on the side. So I think those are like the other skills that would definitely be a lot less transferable, right? From Renekton to Camille. It's like Camille she can split push, and she can also like, she has more options in my opinion versus like a Renekton.
Yeah, and that's what makes it good. Your point is like you get to develop. You have to opt into developing those skills to make Camille work. So, yeah, that's a really good point. But I think like the core of it is just adjusting your expectations, right?
Yeah,
you can't expect that you're gonna play 100 games of Camille and you're gonna like you. For me, I still don't really have a champion that I'm as comfortable with as when I had 1,000 games in a season on Irelia. That's just it will never get to that level unless I do another 1,000 games.
On Cassante.
On Cassante. But I don't want to do that, really.
So the whole OTP conversation, I want to get, so Violet, in terms of AD carries. The AD carries in the Bot Lane Academy, do they, like, you know, in the choosing champ channel and stuff, do they struggle to transition to other champions? Because we've talked before on the podcast, Charles, that, you know, there's a lot more transferable skills between the AD carries, you know, the archetype. So what are people's view on, what's your view on OTP as an AD carry main?
I mean, I think it's completely fine to OT a champion. I think if you understand like your champions, like as I said, a lot of the skills are transferable in AD carry. Like most of the times, most AD carries aren't going to be the one going in first and stuff. You want to play your range to a certain degree. So I think as long as you understand, you know, what your champion does, you're going to be able to easily branch out to a lot more AD carries.
So, I mean, you've obviously had mains, right?
Yeah.
Did you have massive drops in LB from, you know, moving to different champions?
Yeah, I mean, I think I never really one-tricked a champion. Like when I climbed like from like Diamond to like Challenger, I just played a lot of champions. The first time I hit high elo, I hit D4 in like Season 8. I actually hit Chow. I think that was when the Chow cutoff was like 30. Or like, it was like 100. It was like very low at that time.
It wasn't like real challenge.
Yeah, I hit Chow for like a very short period of time. And then I would always just play what I felt like. I got bored quickly. So I just learned like, I'd play like a lot of champions. And then I demoted back to D4 by the end of the season.
Yeah, I see. So it was because you just had a huge sample.
Yeah, I literally I would play like a lot of champions. I think I played like 30 plus champions. I would play like a lot of mid as well. I just play like these random champions. I just played the champions I felt were fun, essentially.
Yeah, people get bored.
I love this comment I just read in the chat here, Nathan. Someone said, OTPs are objectively worse at the game. Someone just said, rogue slasher.
Yeah, you
take it.
I think that's a ridiculous point. I think that's utterly ridiculous because it's like everybody. If you're an OTP, what that essentially means is that you have specialized in a set number of skills that is required to make your champion work. If you play a pool of champions, you are worse at a wider number of skills, but you just haven't it's kind of the same argument that people say when they see like. They'll have like a troll pick on their team, you know, or like a off meta pick, and they're like, "Oh, I have Aurelian Soul jungle," but that Aurelian Soul jungle is at the same elo as you. You know, it's like
they're playing the same game. They're going to be making similar mistakes.
It's just a ridiculous point. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an OTP, right, you're going to be very good at your champ, obviously, but you're also going to be very good at the skills that OTP teaches you.
Yes.
Is what you're trying to say. And yeah, if you have a wider champion pool, let's say you play 10 champions, then you're just going to be objectively worse at all those individual skills.
Yeah, you're going to be worse at a lot of skills. Yeah. What's better, being really good at some skills or being mediocre at a lot of skills?
And that's the beauty of League of Legends. Neither. It doesn't matter. It's just up to your interpretation. How do you want to enjoy the game? And that's why I brought up the comment, right? Because I just don't like that level of judgment that you're applying to other people. Because Yeah, the way you want to play League of Legends is the way you want to play League of Legends.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be a professional player, sure, you're gonna struggle, right? But what are we measuring it against? You know, like
that was kind of my experience with swapping from being an OTP, because when I used to OTP Irelia, swapped to playing a variety of champions, and it took me a really long time to get to the same level of depth of understanding the game playing that pool, because once I had all of the basic stuff out of the way with Irelia, I could get to a deep level of starting to understand deeper concepts about the game. Whereas when I played a pool of 3 champions, I had to focus on a lot more surface level issues with all of them.
Sure.
Whereas I could just get the champ mastery out of the way with Irelia, and then I was thinking like going really deep on like you know, wave management based on the game state, and like in the mid game really complex transition periods, and like all of this stuff that I was just able to get to a deeper level of understanding of the game. Whereas when I swapped to other champions, I had to go back to more surface level concept.
Yep. All right, so looking at the Twitch chat here, Source Good.
Source God
Saucin,
Saucin.
thank you for the
Yeah,
tier
he's
1.
the goat of the MLA.
He's an MLA, right?
He says, will Lucas marry me?
No.
Someone compared you to Charles Leclerc in the YouTube chat. You know who Charles Leclerc is?
Yeah, he's the phone.
Yeah.
So that's a compliment.
Oh, is that a good thing?
Absolutely.
We've got Ganked Wendigo saying Coach Violet is the GOAT.
True.
I have Fallen Academy.
Synopsis, I think you introduced him today. You said thanks for the warm welcome, Lucas.
Yep, we were just having a chat.
All right, so yeah, so throughout the stream today, we are going to be looking at Twitch chat and YouTube chat. So send in your questions, guys. I always have the mailbag piece of paper here to fall back to, but we want to get specific questions here. So, Charles, can we see any specific questions that we should start with?
I'm peeping into the chat. I see some discussion of items.
Here we go, here's one. So this is just in general. At what point do you guys recommend to switch main champions? I'm getting to 70 games on Briar Jungle, and I've hit Emerald for the first time, but I haven't plateaued. So this is the El Clasico. I'm scared of success. Right? I'm 70 games deep on a champ. I haven't plateaued yet. Should I swap champions? Do you guys get this much?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes. I mean, it just depends if you're having fun. I think that's like a big part. It's like, I mean, if you're burnt out of Briar, I would recommend, you know, maybe you can add in a champion, right?
Yeah.
To cycle in. But just keep fucking going, mate. You're like winning all your games.
That's what I was literally just about to say the same thing. I think it's kind of the same mindset where people look down on somebody who's just really good at their champion.
Yeah.
You know, like the previous guy talking down on OTPs. Like, if you're just really good at your champion, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, don't feel the need to be the super well-rounded player, this savant of League of Legends. If you enjoy Briar, just get really good at Briar and just, you know, fulfill your enjoyment.
So it's so fascinating how people ask this question. They know logically they're climbing.
Yeah.
They're playing the champ, you know, and maybe they even love the champion, like as Violet said. But as Charles said, they're scared of the plateau and they're scared of the success because it's such a convenient excuse to move to a different champion. It's like, okay, it's fine. Like, you know, I can lose some games. I don't have much mastery or whatever it is. So it's whenever I see this question, it's a bit of like a screaming out, like, you know, maybe some stage 4 issues going on.
The other thing is like the black magic of improvement in League of Legends is inflating your elo, facing better players who are punishing you more. If you're swapping champs, you're playing against Emerald 4 players on all these different champs that you're not good at, you're not gonna learn, you're not gonna get your mistakes punished. Whereas if you play it, you OTP, your elo inflated, you know, you're this disgusting player.
That's what the community says.
Face these really good players and learn and improve and branch out when you're actually playing against good players.
All right, we've got a question here from Arabian Night. Says, I recently learned that I will be unemployed. While not the end of the world, I need to restructure my day. How can I focus on league improvement while not overindulging? Now, this is actually quite common. Is that people have too much time to play league, and then this is where they play 15 games a day, and then they're playing low intensity gameplay and all that. So, okay, how about we frame this question is, what would the perfect day
you got a blank slate
of League of Legends improvement be?
Yeah.
Or when you guys have climbed the most, what do you think? We'll start with you, Vincent.
I mean, I think it's very important you just structure your games in a way where you're just not like mindlessly grinding. I think everyone has like different levels of intensity, right? I think you just gotta figure out what works for you, right? Because you know yourself the best. But usually I would just stop playing when I feel like I start getting tilted easily. I think in the early stages of my career, I would just play all the way to the late game, right, as a professional player. But I would usually find myself getting really tilted later. Because I knew I'd start getting agitated, I'd start getting tired. That's when you kind of know it's like a massive waste of time. So I think it's just figuring out what works for you, especially. But you know, you can start off with like a set amount of games, and then you can maybe like add in more or cut it down depending on how you're feeling, like your emotional state.
So how did you develop the skill, Violet, of knowing when to step away from the PC? Because a lot of people know they're tilted, but they want to keep smashing their head, getting back the LP that they lost.
Yeah, because I mean, when I was like, you know, climbing the ladder and like playing professionally, I mean, I just realized that it was just a massive waste of time. I was just like, I used to be like a massive rager. Like, if anyone knows me in the Soloq, I used to be like a massive like rager. I get really tilted extremely easily. So then that's when I realized it's like, you know, like I'm just basically just being completely unproductive. And it was like, it would like affect like my job as well if I'm not getting enough sleep, right?
Yep.
If I'm waking up late to scrims,
Yep.
if I'm tilt queuing, I'm rage queuing, losing LP. All that sort of stuff.
Was there like a tipping point? Did that happen like? Was there like a breaking point for you, or did it happen just gradually over time?
I think it just happened just gradually.
Right.
Like as I went through the process. So it was like I kind of just had to like learn through trial by error, if that makes sense, rather than just something exploding.
Yeah. Do you think that just came with like maturing a bit as well?
Yeah, I think as a human, like I think I was like 19, 20.
Yeah.
I didn't really have that much life experience at that point in time, so.
I think it also really depends on like what stage of your journey, what stage of your process you're in, because there's something that we talk a bit about in the MLA is like you have execution phases, right? So you have times where you have to focus on quality over quantity, in terms of just, you know, let's say you're not plateaued, you just need to get in reps, right? You just need to play the game, get wins essentially. And again, I'm always really, I tell people if there's LP on the table, make sure that you're as high LP as you can be, going back to that idea that you're going to improve the most when you're actually playing against better players. So that's the first thing. But then if you're in it, this is where you need clarity over what kind of phase you're in your journey, because there are times where it is good just to get in a lot of games, and just, in my opinion at least, and just get in a lot of games. So that would be the first thing. The other thing is, if you have a lot of time, and this was something that I experienced, I had a lot of time. My parents didn't really force me to study very much.
As a young whippersnapper?
Yes, as a young whippersnapper. And they knew I just really liked League, so they were okay with me spending a lot of time. And that actually was kind of to my detriment in a lot of ways, where I didn't really have anything else going on in my life. I was just purely playing League. And when League is the only thing that you do, it really warps your perspective of life. It's just like, if you have a 0-3 block and League is the only thing you're going to do that day...
It's like death.
Yes, the world is over.
Yeah, it's done.
You are going to die.
Yeah.
You know, so just like make sure you do other stuff in your life. League can't be the only thing, because it's really hard to be like regulate your emotions in game. You know?
Yeah.
Got one from a primer, Nathan.
Okay. Where's that one? Is that the
Bobby Styles.
Bobby Styles? Yep.
For the 80 carry one. Said, hey guys, I was able to get to Diamond as an Aphelios OTP, but I'm having a hard time getting to Master. What can I work on if my CS is already averaging at 9 CS per minute? So he thinks he's solved it.
Yep.
CS, 9 a minute.
Why isn't he challenger?
Why isn't he already ranked?
Because everyone says just get to 10 CS per minute. That's how you climb League of Legends, right?
I mean, I think if you're already getting that high CS, like from the lane phase, then probably your mid game, you're just a low impact player in the mid game. Right? I see a lot of players, you know, they usually they don't understand the decision that they're making in the mid game. They either just move midway too often, or they just sit mid AFK farming, right? You're getting that 9 CS. So at that point, I definitely would recommend just watching back your mid game sequences, or especially your team fighting role. At the end of the day, AD carry is a very high execution role. Like, you could end one team fight and the game is just over, right? Like, you could farm well, your whole team's losing the game, you show up to a team fight, you play really poorly, you die. The game could just be cooked, right, from that point onward. So I think it's being very critical with your mid-game like movement, and also your team fighting as well.
I see a big thing with Aphelios players as well, just limits, right? Like, good Aphelios players know when to just fucking send it and just go forward. You're not that kind of character that just wants to kind of... Obviously, Aphelios is very good late game, right? But he's also capable of, like, just killing people. Like 1v2ing on the right
like
gun.
a lot of damage,
Yeah.
especially with the right guns, right? Blue guns, red, white in the late game. You can definitely like push your limits a lot more. So
Yeah.
I mean that's like part of the team fighting right aspect. Is just knowing when to like push the limits depending on what guns you have as well. For sure.
Another ADC question for you, Violet, says, how do you start using attack move and how do you best get used to it? Is it possible to play ADC at a high level without attack move?
I do think it is possible to play. It just reduces the risk of error essentially, right? When you right click only, like you can actually misclick. Like I don't think it's possible to like never misclick, you know what I mean? Like that's just not a realistic approach to the game. So how do you get used to it? You just have to do it. It's like how do you get better at clicking? You need to actively go into game. And just you will lose games, right? Maybe if you're not comfortable with trying that in ranked, just play normals and spam attacking with click, right? I literally just tanked it in ranked. I was like, okay, I saw like, you know, when I was like a low elo player, watched like a lot of the, you know, like pros back in the day, but like Double Upstream, all those sort of guys. I saw them use attack move and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like copy what they do, and then I just tanked it.
What do you mean you've lost every game?
Yeah, I just lose games. I just misclick.
Yeah.
I just misclick. I
That's
fuck
awesome.
it
I
up.
love
Like
that.
you just have to send it sometimes.
Yeah.
This is the same thing with like locked camera and unlocked camera. You just gotta just tank it, you know. Just and so how long? Were you surprised at how quickly you got used to using attack move?
I mean, I think it was like
Not that long,
I think it was like I mean, it took me probably like a couple months.
Oh, a couple of months.
But my background is like a bit different. Like my parents would only limit me to play like 2 games a week. So it took me
holy
like
shit. Oh, so
back
that's
in season
really-
3 and 4. Yeah,
Yeah.
it took me 2
So that's like
years.
3 days in the real world.
Yeah, it took me 2 years to hit level 30, I think.
Yeah.
So I started like season end of season 2, season 3.
Dude, it's
I
like
did not know
Violet
that.
lives on that planet from Interstellar
Yeah,
where time just
time,
goes
yeah.
really fast. And like,
His league progress is so slow because he can only play 2 games a week.
Yeah, so it took me a couple
That's
months to actually get into it because I was like very limited in the amount of time I had.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
it doesn't take too long. It's just like anything, right? It's like you just gotta pump out games and just tank it, and you'll
Yeah.
get used to it eventually.
That's what I was going to say. When you said 2-3 months, I was like, because usually I say it's about when do people transition from locked camera to unlocked camera. It's actually only like 1 to 2 weeks. People actually really get the hang of it. So, which would be roughly how much, you know, if you actually played the proper amount.
Yeah,
of
it'd be a
games.
couple weeks for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
you'd get
yeah,
used to it.
weeks,
You might not do it perfectly, but it'd already be a natural habit. Right? And then you can just keep getting better at it.
I will say as well, you don't have to A-click every auto attack. I don't know how you play, but I sometimes just left-click auto, and then sometimes A-click. It's like depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just right click. I always just,
right.
it's just a tool, right? That you
Yeah,
can add as
exactly,
well.
yeah.
It's just like an extra tool that you should be comfortable using, right? You don't have to use it for every single time.
Yep.
All right, here's a really good question from Source God Sourcin. What are the skills needed to progress from Emerald to Diamond? How does the game change? Now, we work with Emerald players all day. I mean, you guys answer VOD questions all the time. What do you guys notice in the VOD questions? What are the mistakes that we see for Emerald players?
A lot of it is just they don't know what they're trying to achieve, to be honest.
So, what, champion reference points or general game fundamentals?
No, typically if you're Emerald, you're going to have really good understanding of your reference points. You need more nuance at that point. It's just like...
So they're too rigid.
Yes, they're too rigid. They need more nuance. They need to just get into the decision moments and really understand, like, you know, based on the signs of what they're seeing in a moment, what decision needs to be made.
What's an El Clasico moment in the game where an Emerald player will just screw it up? Like around neutral, around lane assignments? So
Deployment.
So mid
Massive,
It's
yes.
mid-game
A lot of
problems.
mid-game stuff, yeah.
Right.
A lot of deployment, like at least one that I see for mid lane is a lot of deployments being made messed up. Either, you know, as a mage, it pains me to see this. Going away from the side of the objective, pains me to see this. A lot of the Emerald players, there'll be items spiking, they'll hit a spike, and they'll just run to side lane.
Oh, yeah.
They'll run to waves that are already shoved out inside. Like, these are decisions that can flip an entire game. You know, if you deploy mid when you're strong, you take one fight, that can switch up the entire outcome of the
But
game.
what happens if people say, well, I go mid, Lucas, and it's just an ARAM, or nothing happens, or my AD carry is getting angry that
Well,
I'm
that's where
soaking
they're not
farm
getting.
experience.
That's where they're not getting specific, right? That's where because some people. That's also a decision I see a lot in Emerald, where they'll only deploy to mid, right?
Yeah, right.
But that's when, you know, in your transition periods, it's an element of gathering information and knowing what decision to make with that information.
I think that's pretty mid-specific. Well, maybe it's good for top lane as well. But yeah, I found that incredibly unintuitive around mid lane as well. Because, like, you want farm. So I can understand why people make this error, right? Because it's a very unintuitive part of the game. It's like, you almost need to have a lot of foresight. And you have to think very, like, creatively around, like, when to group and when to split. It's such a common question. When do I group and when do I split?
Yeah.
It's just the the curse of the solo laner. It's literally that. But AD carry would be pretty different, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty similar in terms of like mid-game. I think one of the most common things that's in Underclass is that they're also too rigid, right? The thing is, you need to gather information extremely well. Like, I see a lot of, like, AD carries, like, you know, you talk about the failures being very fed. Like, let's just say the enemy team is, like, a Malphite and Vi, and, you know, it's like a 4v5, right? They use both ults on one of their teammates, and the failures player will just not fight.
Yeah,
even though, like, they have a chance to, like, completely take over the fight, even though it's, like, quote-unquote, like a 4v5, right? It's like, oh, a 4v5, numbers advantage, I'm just gonna run. I'm not gonna take the fight. But you need to get a little bit more specific instead of just not just, like, the keeping track of numbers is just, like, the service level, like, basic, right? But you need to keep track of, like, the key spells and just getting a little bit more specific with the details with the fights that you're taking in the mid game.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people might just immediately go to laning phase as the solution. Just like, oh, they just need to win lane harder, you know, just get more fed to carry. But it's actually decision making in mid game, regardless of the role. I think that aligns with top lane too, for sure.
I'm interested when you started coaching Violet. You know, obviously you came from professional to, you know, becoming just a normal solo queue coach. And obviously lane phase and min-max mid lane is a huge part of the AD carry.
Yeah.
Did you find you over-indexed on that in your early coaching days? Like, did you realize how important mid-game was?
Yeah, nah, I think I over-indexed on like everything, to be honest. When I first started coaching, I would just information overload a lot, like getting into too nitty-gritty of the specifics of the lane phase for like, you know, the low elo players especially. I think at a certain point, like, you know, Diamond Plus, you definitely need to get a little bit more specific in the lane phase. But yeah, for sure, that's something that, you know, I struggled a lot with when I first started coaching, is just information overloading for like early game, mid game,
Telling them
like,
everything. Like, here's my brain, and then obviously they don't know where to focus.
Exactly.
That's obviously the skill, and that's what WTL and our coaching is finding the big 20%ers and, you know, setting limit objectives.
I think there are definitely different ways of getting diamond. Like, for example, when I OTP'd Irelia, when I OTP'd Irelia, the season I hit Master, I averaged a 1500 gold lead at 15 minutes with the champion, because I just had such a deep understanding of the matchups, of wave management, consistently getting my champion into positions that it needed to be in. And I had a horrific mid game. But I think it probably would have been more optimal to maybe be a little bit worse at lane phase and better at mid game.
Yes.
But to a certain degree, you can specialize in certain areas as there's not one way to be a role player. There's no one way to be any rank, to be honest.
Yeah, there's so many ways to get climb. All right, so question from Yo Bedo says, hey guys, I main support. My peak is Diamond 1, currently D4. It feels like I play well, but in the mid game, I may make one or two mistakes that feels like cost me the game. How to fix? Now, obviously, we aren't support mains here, but you play with supports a lot. Obviously, you're an AD carry. What's your observation when you play with support players, or when you're coaching people? What are the, you know, you see like an Emerald or a Diamond support? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
what mistakes are they making?
I think the biggest thing about supports is, your free time. Like, you need to understand what you're doing with your free time, right? That is like the most important thing in support. You don't need to farm, right? You don't need to like think about all these things necessarily compared to like the laners that lane. You just need to understand that, like, are you utilizing your recall time as well? Using your free time? Are you moving? Are you being at the right place at the right time? That is like the most important question you should be asking yourself, especially if you're dying. Like you said, this person said he's dying once or twice, right?
He just won't make one or two mistakes. I don't know what those mistakes are, but I assume they're deaths. A lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's just like, if you walk in as a support like 20 seconds before Nash and you die and you're trying to get vision by yourself. Yeah, that's like a
common mistake.
Right?
That's a Nautilus classic.
I think but there's also the case where this player is just making a lot more. I see this a lot where people attribute game-losing mistakes to the things that are most emotionally difficult to deal with. Like, I get this question a lot about, you know, like 40-minute games where they'll lose a fight at 40 minutes, their base will get run through, and they're like, that is the game-losing moment, rather than, you know, decisions leading up to that point. Like, support players, a lot of the time that I'm seeing in Diamond, they don't know what side of the map to attack. They don't sync up with their jungler or their win condition. Like, if you're a support player and you just know what side of the map to deploy to and to attack, and you're synced up with your strong member and your jungler on that side of the map, you get a tier 1 tower, you're going to be so incredibly impactful. It's not going to come down to that one death, you know.
I will say, like, when I made my climb on support, this is a few years ago, the roles changed a little bit, but I feel like the support role is very unique in the sense that it's not easy. It's easier to reach a decent floor, right? Like getting to like Diamond as a support player is probably one of the easier roles to do that in because a lot of supports just have weird narratives around their lack of impact and around like AFKing, and that role is just mired with narratives, right? But going above that, that's where you do really need to start looking at a lot of missed opportunities, not just mistakes, right? Like Violet was saying, like looking at your deploys, linking up with strong members, win con assessment, communication, a lot of invisible things. So I guess the bulk of the feedback is like, don't just look at your death at 36 minutes and 20 seconds.
It's not just a term you use is like addition by subtraction, right?
Yeah,
it's not
just that.
That's not the case with support players. Like, correct. When let's say like even with like a master support, it's not like, confusing why they're at that evo. Yeah, they're sitting around on no wards. They're not syncing up with me. They're just deploying to La La Land. They're not thinking about like, they're not thinking about attacking something on the map.
Yeah, correct.
You
You
know?
got to be able to sync up with your teammates. It's just a role of information gathering, communication, and then syncing your pressure with your team.
Just like this is something that really frustrates me. Just like have something to attack.
Yeah.
You know, just attack something like a tier 1 tower, an objective. You know, get some side lane pressure, like attack something.
I mean, that's like something that even happens in Master Plus, right? You know, in some of my games that I play, you know, when I'm playing 8K, I could be 5-0 and my support could just lead me to help the 0 jungler, right?
Yeah, they'll just walk
Sitting
across
there,
can't help
no
themselves.
reason. Yeah, exactly. They're just moving at the wrong place. It's like, sure, you can move to that play, but is that actually a good play to move towards that when you're jungle 0-2, or should you be playing around and be like 4-0 AD character, right?
I think the psychology, this is my observation, is that because a lot of the earlier stages of the game support typically maybe leaving the AD carry, they don't realize when the AD carry starts getting spiked and strong, and then they just keep doing that pattern of behavior. That's actually what helped me a lot when I was climbing on my support, probably going from a 30% win rate to a 45% win rate.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, okay, my AD carry is now the strongest person. I need to start peeling him because maybe I would overdive or like try and engage with my jungle who's like 0-2.
I think recalibration is really important.
Yes, really important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. First time chatter, Mace Frankie says, hey, why did you guys stop the Challenger vs Emerald series? I've actually started that back up on the We Teacher League. That's actually moved to the We Teach League Broken by Concept channel.
I'll link the playlist.
We have a playlist. I'm ramping that up. We're doing about 2 to 3 episodes a week. We've already got like 6 banked with some really good higher elo OTPs.
If anyone has anyone they'd want to see,
guests,
let us know.
Yep.
You're gonna be so good at the game, Nathan.
Yeah,
With
I'm
all these
learning
challenger
a
players
lot.
teaching you.
Yeah.
It's going to be the opposite of it, actually.
Yeah. I'm going to be a jack of all trades and master of all trades.
Master of, yeah.
Laurie says, hey guys, just want to give you a big thanks for all the work and the content. Awesome, Laurie, to hear. Thanks for the shout out. We got a question here from Kato. This is going to be for you, Lucas. Hello, do you guys think if I am playing Yone, a champ that performed lower and has high expectations in terms of skill, do you think I should be less harsh on myself when I make a mistake as compared to, say, Malzahar? Playing Yone, should they be harsh on themselves than compared to Malzahar? Yeah,
I think it really
yes,
depends on the type of player, to be honest. Like,
Okay.
here's the harsh reality. It's like, if you're not able to be harsh on yourself and you take your mistakes very personally, you're not cut out for a champion like Yone. If you play a champion like Yone, you need to be able to be very harsh on yourself and feel the pain of your mistakes, but have the enjoyment and curiosity to keep going. That was my experience, for example, with Irelia. Brought up on my experience, but that was it's a very similar journey, and I would just feel the pain of a lot of my mistakes, and I improved very quickly because of that. Because I was very curious with the champion. I enjoyed it a lot. So you need to actually be more harsh on yourself. You need to have feel the pain of your mistakes, take your mistakes very personally, and while acknowledging that it is a very hard journey. You need to acknowledge that it is very hard and make sense of that. But you also really need to, you need to be harsh on yourself.
I think it depends on like how harsh. It really doesn't mean like being harsh on your own mistake, and like, because like I see a lot of players are like, oh, like I'm an idiot, right? But yeah, just need to separating yourself from the mistake, right? So, okay, that was a shit play.
Yeah.
And then trying to figure out like why you're going to that shit instead of like, oh, like I'm just a shit player. Then that can lead to like really, I guess, like detrimental like mental state.
Yeah, it depends on how you go about fixing that mistake. If you're just like making all these mistakes and you're not getting into the details of fixing it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah, I'm stupid for doing that. Then yeah, it's not very helpful at the end of the day. It's not really going to fix that issue. But
I also think I would really recommend you need to get into the details relative to what your champion needs to focus on. So like with Yone, for example, that's an awesome champion, I would assume, to get into the details with your lane assignment in the mid game, pressuring side, because Yone wins games through side, right? Generally on board. Yeah. So like what I'm saying is like I'm not a bloody Yone player, but you need to get into the details with the right part of the game, not necessarily like
So be
silly
harsh on the
shit.
correct things,
Yeah,
not like the pointless
things that are
things.
super relevant to your champion's reference points. That's where you need to go like deeper on, I would say.
All right, we've got a question from Bio Climbing Ray. Says, is it actually possible to win every game, or are some games just unwinnable?
It's funny that that's even asked.
Yeah.
by the way. That's crazy.
So, okay, well, let's tackle this in terms of, you know, when people say, you know, like Smurfs and stuff like that, or people say like, oh, if Faker was playing this game, he could win this game. Let's break down that like narrative or like thought loop there, because it's really unproductive, I find. Because at the end of the day, you're not fake. You know, you're not you don't just become a challenger player overnight. So you know, climbing in league and improving is having like a just above 50% win rate. There's going to be periods of time where a champion clicks with you and you're like 60% win rate, or or whatever it is. Like for example, Zaryu, Curtis coached him, and he had a 35% win rate on Ari. And then in his last, he actually recently got to gold. Someone linked me actually his reaction, and he was so stoked. And in the last couple of games, he had a 70% win rate.
Yeah.
And then he's moved up the win rate because, things clicked, right? But then he's going to plateau again, right? And he has to learn new things and he's go back down to 50%. So it's never productive to think about the outcomes of games that actually win and loss. You need to look at specific decision making that has impacted the game, or if you fix that, the game's in a bit of an alternative universe. What do you guys think about this whole narrative? You can win every game.
I used to use that thought process with people that I was coaching. I would use Chovy, of course, because he's better than Faker. But I would say like Chovy could win this game. My approach there was thinking like, it's good if they realize that they might not see the impact, but the game is winnable. But what I realized is a much better way to frame things as the person that I can be in 3 months will win this game.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That's better.
If I actually just answered a question like this today, it's like if I get 1% better from this game and then the next game, even if let's say I make a variety of mistakes in a game, fixing those mistakes might not have won that game. But as a result of fixing those mistakes and then the next set of mistakes from the next game and that after that, eventually you'll in 1-2 months you have improved enough that you could come back to this specific game and win it.
Yeah, that's why people get they mind explodes, right?
Yeah.
They come back and they sometimes say, but Lucas, if I fix that mistake and I didn't die there or whatever, we'd still lose the game.
Yeah.
So what the fuck's the point of fixing it?
Yes, that's the point. It's just like it might not win you the game to fix that mistake, but that doesn't mean it's a mistake that's not worth fixing.
Yeah.
I mean, people just see very short term, no? It's like, like if it doesn't help me win this game now,
Oh my
yes.
God.
useless.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
Zaryu
We
has
just
a
won a
53%
4v5.
win rate on Ari now, by the
He's
way.
moved it up to
Yeah.
30%.
This
Yeah.
guy
That's what